On today's build, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working on a buddy sled who bought himself a 2024 Ski-Doo Edge 850 and literally rode it stock all last year. Added a couple little things to the back, but for the most part, it is completely 100% stock. So we're going to flip the camera around and I'll show you what we... All right, to start off, what you need to do is take off all the side panels, the hood, all the stuff around the muffler, get everything exposed and ready to go. Then we're going to go ahead and attack the clutching, get the belt off, get the muffler off, and get it prepped and ready to pull everything apart and start working. Got all that taken care of, and then we also came over to this side and took off the guard. And this little plastic piece that sits right in here. So there's the muffler. And there's that guard. That is going to be replaced. Sorry, that is going to be put back on. This guy is going to be taken off completely and replaced with our new GGB exhaust. So we'll see how well this does. I believe there's a 9-pound difference in this one. So pretty significant. All right, so working with this clutching on any of the P-drive stuff, there's a must-have tool, and it's going to be the ibackshift tool. What this does is actually sits all the way over and allows you to take off your bolt very, very, very easily. Let's see how hard this is going to be. Oh yeah, I think this one's required too. So we got the bolt out. And we have our puller here. Now, Joe from ibackshift always recommends that when you use your puller, take a little bit of grease, dab the tip of it so it doesn't stick all that bad. You don't need a ton. And then it's just slide in and just let it rip. So you should still have space right through there so that you can actually access it. Now this is going to be, what is this? A 3/4. Fits perfectly on that. I'll use a breaker bar, knock her off, and go from there. So the next step is going to require two deals, a hammer and your puller. What you're trying to do is separate the two halves so that you can start accessing all the top stuff. So go in, do approximately 9 to 10. Should be pretty good. I usually just go right to where you can't see the threads. That should be good. And then you separate them. All right, the two halves have been separated. And let's get some of this other stuff out of here. But you can separate it pretty easy. You're gonna need both sides, but big thing is that we're going to go ahead and clean up all this stuff with Scotch-Brite, both surfaces, and then we're going to start attacking all these. So one point to be made is that if you see that arrow right there and this guy right here, is those are guide marks. So when you put the clutch back together, you're not going to have any kind of variations, because with that, if you look on this side, it's been balanced properly. So the whole thing is balanced. Same with this. It's all done in a big machine. So you want to make sure that these marks specifically are lined up, and there's stuff on the inside as well that allow it to show you right where that is. So what I did now, separated it, marked it, and then I took a big socket and I put it in my vise. Since I don't have Joe's really fancy tool, it allows it to move appropriately. You're gonna take all the cushion buttons out and go from there. Before we do that, one of the things I really like doing is I like putting a mark right on the top, right in line with this, to indicate which way it's going. So mark, and then we'll have the mark on there. And take these buttons off. Now, if these don't come loose, you gotta heat this part right up here. I have a propane torch on the wall over there that I'm gonna go ahead and heat these up, get these 6 out, pull it out, and we'll move on. So now you have your cushion pulled off, and I've attached my spring compressor. Now inside, I've already kind of done it. Right there is your circlip. So what you're gonna try to do is you're gonna come in, you're gonna pop this out. You're gonna hold the back side, and then you're gonna take a little screwdriver, pop that out, and get that whole thing undone. Upon addressing your ramps right here, you have your axle that comes all the way through, and then you have a bolt that goes into it and basically seats in like this. So one of the issues that a lot of people come up with is that this right here, which is 25 Torx, T25 Torx, is that they start wrenching on it and they'll wallow that out. Now, one of the best things that Joe from ibackshift taught me is you take it and you get it nice and vertical and you push it into the actual clutch. Allows it to not wallow and move a whole ton. I've already done these. I'm gonna go ahead and take these out and then I'll show you. Once you have all these bolts out, you gotta take a bolt that's not a part of what you just took out. So you have your 3 bolts that go into each one of these. I found a bolt that was the exact same threads. What you do is you slide it in here, you screw it in, and then you have to hammer it that way in order to get the actual axle out. This is a press fit in, and so once you get this out, then you can pull each one of these axles out and then remove your ramp. So I went ahead and remove the top spider here. Orientation mark, and then here are your ramps. So with each one of these, which I do, I just pull this out just enough, and I can just remove each one. So these are what we're gonna replace, this guy right here. So we're gonna get in with the T25, get this undone, and then replace this with the hardware that we have. So here's the ramp. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna take one of these off, take this bolt completely out, just like so. Now after you have that bolt completely loose, it's gonna come completely apart, just like so. Pull that to the side. You're gonna take your left arm, so this guy right here, and it's all one unit, and take this left arm off, and you're gonna place it, this guy, and this is gonna sit. Now, once you have your ramp all set in, you're gonna put your bolt in, and you're gonna put that axle back in. You see I've already done all these, and you're gonna pinch it back in. What this is gonna do is you're gonna tighten this all the way to the point where it gets nice and tight. You don't want to over torque it. There's no torque specs, but you do definitely want to make sure that that is done properly. You're gonna see that these actually still float independent, and we're gonna address that once we get the spider back on, figure out what weights we're gonna be using, and show you all the bolts. Okay, so at this point, I've gone ahead and I've added the bolts with the weights to the actual ramps. I got everything set to number 4 on the clicker. That is what Joe recommends, to start at 4 and go from there. But every single one is done. So the next thing is just put the cushion back on, get everything tightened neck down, and this clutch is pretty much ready to go. All right, so we're kind of at a crossroads here. Next thing that we have completed is we have put the cushion back on. We got it lined up on the shaft. There is a detent on it, and on the inside of the clutch itself, on the actual inside, there's one as well. So this is needing to be torqued up. The first one is going to be 80 foot-pounds, and the second one is going to be 89. So do it once at 80, readjust, and then do it at 89. You should be good to go. Okay, so let's do a quick recap. So I've taken out the secondary clutch. I have the chain case all done up with the tool, and I have completed the secondary clutch. So everything is torqued down to its specified torque numbers. I got everything done with the helix, the new helix from ibackshift. And one big thing that you want to make sure is that right in the top, you see the white, that is that plastic washer that the spring rides on inside of that helix. So if you don't have that or don't see that and all you see is the spring, you have messed up, and you got to go back and get the washer placed back into the helix. After you've brought your clutch back over, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your clutch, slide it right back in, and mate it with that tool that you have all the way through the chain case. Sometimes you just have to come in from the other side and make sure it mates nice and well, and get it completely put back together. Once it's seated up, then you can slide it all the way back through. Your bearing is going to sit right in here. So push it nice and through, get it pounded up. And sometimes you're going to have to grab and get it so it seats properly. As you can see, the bearing itself is all the way seated in to its little holder. And that's when we can take our piece here, which is the bearing retainer, slide it back in, and use your nut to the back side, and then use a 13 millimeter to tighten it up. Once you get it nice and tight, you're gonna go to the other side and just make sure that everything looks good and proper and is seated perfectly. So a couple things to look at when you slide your clutch all the way through is you're gonna make sure that your clutch is seated properly right into the gear. So what I usually do is take a small screwdriver, press up against the gear, and then I can unscrew my tool and look at the depth. I know on a lot of the 23s, they had a spacer. For the 24s, they don't have a spacer. So your gear is actually going to be seating right up against your shaft. That's the reason, because they went to the Hivo gear and chain, and so you're getting perfectly matched up stuff. After you made sure that your gear and everything is set up, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take some blue Loctite, put it on the bolt, get that in, and then use your 15 to seat it all the way up against the gear completely. It's tight. Make sure that your brake is on, and you're going to take your trusty torque wrench and you're going to go up to 36 foot-pounds to make sure that you are getting the proper torque onto that bolt going into your gear. So perfect. And there's pretty self-explanatory. You're just gonna go ahead and put your cover on. You're gonna come to the other side. You're gonna undo your brake. Make sure everything feels nice and good. This outer sheave is nice and tight. The inner sheave does move back and forth properly. You're gonna put your collar on here, and you're going to tighten it up. Make sure that the belt is adjusted appropriately. We can go through the proper seating of the belt, where it sits, what it looks like, and whatnot. So a few things to consider when you're putting your belt back in and making sure everything looks good and is nice is you want to make sure that your belt's in place. You get your washer, your shim, and then The best way to figure out how you're going to put this little guy on is there's threads on both sides, or on one side. What you're wanting to do is put the threads to the outside, and you want to make sure that this bolt is facing up. So best way that I found to get lined up, grab a screwdriver real quick, but get it into a position where you can pop it right into place. Once you get it into place, then it's a really easy thing. You make sure this is nice and loose, spread it. Now it's into place, and then you can start getting it into its threads and whatnot. So now it's in. Grab your nice tool, get it all the way around, and then from here you can start adjusting how much this is going to be moving. So okay. You go ahead and put your little tool in, you'll spread it a little bit more, you'll get your belt on, I'll show you how to adjust it. Okay, so I've put the tool all the way in, I've gapped this so that this is pretty far out. The belt itself is now completely in, and I'm able to move it. So, I'll move it nice and easy. Adjust this a little bit here. Let's see. So, readjust this. So then you take the tension off of this and rotate it around until you get the proper gap that you want. And then you can tighten this guy to where you need it. So back it off a couple more turns, get it up, back it off, one more turn. Okay. So there's still quite a bit of gap in it. You're going to look at how much is going in and how much is on the other side. This is actually pretty good. So I'll back this tool off and do one final look. Okay. Yeah. So, perfect. So, might even be a little too loose. So, even at that point, put your tool back in. Gap it just a little bit. Check. Go all the way through. Should be pretty decent on that. Back it out. And then from here, what I always like doing is I like kind of snugging everything up and seeing where things are sitting. So this guy right to about there. And then on the trail, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that this is properly adjusted. Come back in, adjust it, make sure that you're getting good clearance all the way around. Joe from ibackshift always recommends that you're going to have a little bit more on this side and a little less on this side. So make sure that you're getting good clearance in the front, good clearance in the back, and adjust it as need be. So that's seeming pretty good from where we're at. So we'll go ahead and tighten all this stuff up. And your clutching is officially done.
I'm taking the world, you'll see. They'll be calling